Well, welcome back, and we continue our special coverage today on Donald Trump's inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. The inauguration represents a key milestone in the leadership transition taking place in Washington, D.C. Today's events include the formal swearing-in ceremony, musical performances, and several official inaugural balls. Due to this year's freezing temperatures, the events have been moved indoors. Both President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance will take their oaths of office inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. And on the eve of his return to the White House, Donald Trump has vowed to sign a series of executive orders on his first day as president, promising supporters that he would act with historic speed and strength in the immediate hours following the inauguration. Ahead of his return to the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Donald Trump addressed a lively crowd of thousands at a victory rally in the Washington, D.C. arena, offering a glimpse into his plans for the next 4 years. The Republican vowed to act unilaterally on a wide range of issues, pledging to use his presidential powers to launch mass deportation operations, roll back environmental regulations, and eliminate diversity programs. He is also expected to sign over 200 executive actions on his first day in office. These will include legally binding executive orders as well as other presidential directives such as proclamations, which are generally non-binding. That was a kind of farewell between both Vice Presidents, J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris, at the final ceremony, during which the inaugural will start in few hours. Back to what we were speaking about, and back to some of the info. President-elect Donald Trump will take his oath of office inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda at 12 p.m. EST today. Trump will take the oath of office administered by Chief Justice of the United States John Roberts at 12 p.m. local time inside the Capitol building rather than outdoors due to the freezing temperatures, as we said before. In Washington, D.C., throughout the day's events, several renowned artists will perform. Country music star Carrie Underwood will sing America the Beautiful during the swearing-in ceremony. Classical tenor Christopher Macho, who previously performed at the Republican National Convention and Trump's Madison Square Garden rally, will rather perform the national anthem at the ceremony. Donald Trump's presidency from his 2017 inauguration to the Capitol right in 2021 brought significant changes to the U.S. policies. His policies on the economy, immigration, and foreign relations, coupled with numerous controversies, left a lasting impact on the nation. Let's take a look at Trump's previous term with our colleague Hani Saif.
Donald Trump's presidency, from his inauguration in January 2017 to the Capitol riot in January 2021, marked a period of profound change in U.S. politics. Key issues included economic policy, foreign relations, immigration, and civil rights. Trump's leadership style, policy decisions, and controversies left a lasting impact. Trump's first months focused on repealing the Affordable Care Act, launching tax cuts and deregulating industries. He quickly withdrew the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Paris Climate Agreement. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, passed in December 2017, was one of Trump's signature domestic achievements. It reduced corporate taxes and aimed to stimulate economic growth. Critics argued it disproportionately benefited the wealthy. Trump's immigration policies were among the most controversial aspects of his presidency. His administration sought to build a wall on the US-Mexico border and enacted a travel ban. Trump's foreign policy, based on America First, led to tensions with traditional allies and international organizations. He pulled the US out of the Iran nuclear deal and engaged in a trade war with China. Trump faced impeachment in December 2019 over allegations he pressured Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden's son. The Senate acquitted him, but the incident fueled political polarization. The COVID-19 pandemic dramatically shaped Trump's final year. His handling of the crisis was widely criticized for downplaying the virus and providing inconsistent messaging. The US faced severe health and economic challenges. Trump's presidency saw heightened racial tensions, especially in response to protests following George Floyd's death. His rhetoric often inflamed divisions, leading to widespread protests and calls for racial justice. The Capitol insurrection on January 6th of 2021 led to Trump's second impeachment. He was accused of inciting the riot, but was acquitted again. The event underscored deep political divides in the US. Trump's presidency has left a polarized nation. His populist appeal reshaped US politics, with his influence continuing to shape the Republican Party and American discourse.
Right, thank you so much, Hani, for this beautiful and parts and for the information you gave us. And for more analysis, we're joined now from New York by Mrs. Irina Zuckerman, a political researcher, and from Texas, we're joined by Mr. Frank Musmar, international relations professor, to further discuss Trump's policies ahead of the inauguration today. Good evening and welcome to you. Let me start here with Professor Musmar. In his first term, Trump's approach to international relations was often described as America First. Now, can we expect this to evolve in this term, or will we see a turning to more isolation policies, or what are we expecting exactly?
Thank you, I would like to thank Ms. Irina Zuckerman, a dear friend of mine. Well, Trump is well known to fulfill his promises, and his campaign was based on America First. So it's going to be America First again. We're going to see that, and there is nothing wrong with that. We'll go back to England. England pulled out from the European Union because England first. So there is nothing wrong with America First. And according to the situation in the United States that we witnessed in the last 4 years, the situation of America inside and outside has changed a lot in a negative way. So if Donald Trump will fulfill his promises, which is I know he will, yeah, it's going to be America First again. Yes.
His first term, Trump's administration took a hard stance on immigration, including efforts to build the definitely, as we said, hard stance on immigration, including efforts to build a border wall. Now, how might this issue play out differently in his second term, especially with the changing public opinion and political dynamics? And as Mr. Musmar here said, we're expecting the America First to go on.
The question, of course, remains what Trump exactly means by America First. If he means putting U.S. interests, strengthening deterrence against adversaries, focusing on rebuilding and vitalizing economic life, and strengthening some of the more vulnerable groups in the United States, strengthening border security and ensuring a better life for all involved, then such a vision will be inspiring to friends around the world and to allies, and bring back many of the countries that have distanced themselves from the US back into the fold. And it will also return a sense of respect even to the US adversaries. If, on the other hand, the slogan is nothing but rhetoric, an excuse for some new form of corruption between technocrats and the government, and an excuse to essentially bully smaller countries and impose isolationist policies regardless of their external and domestic impact, then I think this will not be helpful to the US and will not, in fact, put America's interests first. It will only benefit US adversaries, geopolitical hegemons, rogue regimes, and terrorist organizations. So implementation matters at least as much as political rhetoric. We are past the point of campaigning, and now we need to implement sound policies that work, that are practical, and that will constrain
Right.
and roll back foreign influence while strengthening the U.S.
Yes, but we were speaking here about his migration policies in the first
And
place, and how will that evolve in his next term? This
yeah,
was the main question here.
well, specifically, these policies also much depends on the implementation. Trump was correct in identifying the migration crisis as a significant problem from a security, economic, and human rights perspective. On all three fronts, Biden's policies were extremely problematic, and now there's a big mess to deal with. It's not going to be a quick or an easy fix, despite Trump's rhetoric. Even mass deportations of individuals with criminal records, about 700,000 in total, will require approximately $86 billion dollars to implement, and that's already raising questions
Mm.
in Congress and among various people about funding such a venture, and that's probably also going to take time. Now, let's assume that that phase of the plan is successful, then we are forced to take a look at other migrants who don't necessarily have a criminal record, but who have a history of deportations and various administrative violations, but who take up many of the jobs that Americans are not willing to do. Does that mean that Trump will impose heavy penalties on businesses employing such individuals? Will he going? Will he be breaking up families? Will he be expending a lot more capital on identifying and rounding
Mm.
up millions of such individuals? That promises to be an extremely long-term, controversial plan that will require careful consideration at every phase, and also requires economic recalibration. So, in order to implement mass deportations of all of the remaining migrants, we need to consider the economic impact of that, and that also means potentially doing away with minimum wage,
Mm.
which made it extremely difficult for Americans to take up the jobs that are being relocated to individuals who do not have to be paid as much.
Right, back to you, Professor Musmari. And Trump's foreign policy decisions, such as the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, drew international criticism. Now, could his stance on climate change and international agreements shift in his second term, especially that his inauguration coincided with the Los Angeles wildfires that were the result of climate change?
Okay, well, I remember that, he mentioned climate change. He's not against climate change, but,
He
he's,
withdrew from the agreement in his first
yes, yes,
term.
I understand, I
Mm.
understand. But in the meantime, Donald Trump is, pragmatic leader, and he try all the time to find solutions. That it's hard to be like to be done in a political manner, as an example. So to him, he agrees to a certain point with the climate change, but he doesn't want to do all the policies just to go against fossil fuel or against anything that considered causing or a reason for climate change, just to be a policy. So he's against using that in politics and then changing the situation that we have now into different situation that will burden the budget of the United States and will maybe affect the situation of the United States globally. So I don't think he is gonna go full force against climate change, but he's going to create different resolutions, regulations that is going to make a balance between the investment in climate change and the investment in fossil fuel. So he's going to make a balance in between both of them. Now, there is a big challenge for the budget of the United States now, and he's looking at it from different perspectives. So, if we're going to say that we're going to alter some resolution that has been done through Biden's administration, it's not going to be like within just signing a new executive orders. It's going to be like bunch of resolutions and executive orders that works together in a way that will bring the economy in the United States somehow to a point of standing. Because nowadays we have like a severe problem in inflation, we have severe problem in the budget deficiency, we have a lot of problems that we need to look at it as a body of problems. We cannot just look at it from one perspective. It works, all those factors works together. So we have to look at many several factors that we're gonna now from now, like day one, according to what people said, that he's gonna sign maybe 50 executive orders and up. But we have to combine all that and come up with a better picture how those executive orders works together, not just one individual one at the same time.
Mrs. Zuckerman, to another area where, of course, given the global challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic during Trump's first term, what lessons do you think Trump might have learned, and how could his handling of public health in crises differ in this second term?
Well, it's funny because Trump himself was not a vaccine skeptic. He actually took credit for the vaccines. He tried to play both sides of the COVID crisis, retaining Fauci on the one hand, but also trying to essentially balance security, medical security and health issues with the economic prosperity issues. And unfortunately, that approach appeared to have backfired in many ways. The Democrats um, accused him of facilitating the crisis and essentially ignoring health issues. And now Trump, watching the huge backlash among his own supporters to the economic policies and health policies adopted by the Democrats, has gone to the other extreme, essentially surrounding himself by a team of not only lockdown skeptics, which has reasonably been found to be ineffective, or even skeptics of the policies instituted by the Democrats, arguably unconstitutional power grabs, but people who decry vaccines in general, not just COVID vaccines, but all vaccines, and who have taken a very unorthodox, shall we say, approach to medical issues. Some of these individuals are within the mainstream of thought, and others are no more the conspiracy theorists. And if they prevail, we will see undoing a lot of the sound medical policies that have proven to work over time and to protect the population against illnesses.
What do you mean here by conspiracy theories?
I'm talking about people like RFK Jr. who believe that vaccines are inherently bad, any types of vaccines, and that has been trying to undo the polio vaccine to essentially have it banned. The polio epidemic caused untold damage to Americans and others around the world, and a polio vaccine was life-saving in that regard. He's also someone who is fixated on taking fluoride out of water. The claim that fluoride is somehow damaging has appeared in Iranian and Russian conspiracy theories, and there's no scientific basis to believe that fluoride is damaging to human health. On the contrary, it's been found to be protective for teeth and bone structure.
So we're speaking here about him protecting the healthcare sector, taking other steps towards that?
On the contrary, he seems to be promoting conspiracy theories that have no scientific methodological backing and that have been promoted by adversarial countries seeking to undermine U.S. health. This is playing into the hands of U.S. enemies and will not help the U.S. Populations. And RFK Jr. does not have any scientific background to be promoting these ideas. He
So yet we
is
have to see here how will Trump deal with the health sector at this upcoming stage, right?
Yes, for he did say that he will be
Yes,
watching Kennedy closely, and I certainly hope that will be the case because the last thing we want is an individual who
right,
does not know what he is doing, promoting conspiracies
right.
designed by other countries.
Let me get back to Professor Musmar here, and Trump withdrew from from another international agreement, and of course that was the Iran nuclear deal and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, this has had lasting global consequences. Could we see a shift in his foreign policy to re-engage with some of these agreements in his second term?
Well, like concerning Iran and the Middle East, um, Iran, is a country that is not abiding by the international laws, and it supports its branches all over the Middle East. Trump theory was, if we control the money that flowing within Iran's hands, we control Iran's branches, and we control the situation and in the Middle East. And he takes the example of what happened in Israel. When Hamas attacked Israel, with support of Iran and the money that within the Iran's hands. So his theory is to deal with Iran is control Iraq, control the money is flowing in the hands of Iran, and create a new image in the Middle East based on economy and based on sort of military cooperation, like sort of NATO of the Middle East or something. So according to that, without controlling Iran, it's not going to be like a vital plan for him. So if we're going to consider how he is going to deal with Iran this time, I think he's going to work with, the European partners, global partners with Iran, and trying to come up with a new resolution that will have Iran abide to the international laws and have their
Let
nuclear
me,
program under control.
excuse me, Mr. Musmar, I have here to, Trump has just arrived to the Capitol House, and now he's in shake hands with President Biden. Of course, he and the First Lady together are taking this memorial pictures and this farewell stance or this meeting between both presidents, which seems to go smooth. Now they are entering into the house. Back to you, Mr. Musmar. Yes, please continue.
Yes, so I think they're gonna work. The United States government is gonna work with the global partners, to find a different resolution against Iran. Iran has to understand that there is developments in the Middle East. There's influence from countries that within the Middle East. There is strategical interest of United States and European countries in the Middle East. So Iran has to understand that and has to understand that the new and the future of the Middle East is going to be out of Iran branches. I don't think Trump is going to allow any branches again for Iran, including my expectation, Iraq and Yemen as well. And to have a country that can cooperate and can work as a body within the Middle East. If that works with Iran, I think it's going to work. Other than that, we're going to see like more severe actions against Iran.
Right, that was Mr. Frank Musmar, International Relations Professor, and Mrs. Irina Zuckerman, a political researcher. We thank you so much for your analysis, and I guess that brings us to the end of this segment. We're still continuing on with our coverage, so stay tuned for more updates here on Qnews.